What's up, people? Welcome to a brand new Wrestle update. I'm your host, Dylan Fox, joined by Nella de Angelis, all the way from the West Coast, and I'm on the east side of the United States of America as we head into Thanksgiving. Hopefully, everybody out there, if you are American, hopefully you have a great Thanksgiving. I know we've got some people outside of the country who either don't celebrate Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving was last month, if you are Canadian out there. So shout out to Canada. They beat us to the punch with this holiday. But basically, everything is going to be a lot of food happening going on. As always, my top recommendation for Thanksgiving food has to be, first, two versions. It depends on whichever one you like, but the potatoes are always the main event, in my opinion. I know everybody goes to the turkey and the meat and all that stuff, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, I like it. But check this out, Nello. I got some cooking tips here. What I do on Thanksgiving is cook the potatoes in the broth, especially if you have ham. If you got ham, cook the potatoes in the broth. It's going to be crazy. I promise. Secondary idea. If you don't have a ham, maybe you're just a pure turkey person. Maybe you don't want ham. Maybe you're a vegetarian. I can't judge you. That was not my purpose to be put on this earth. But what I can do is give you some advice to make your day a lot better. If you don't have the ham broth, crock pot this. Potatoes, cut them up into little squares, easy to fork, pretty much. And tomato juice and the potatoes in the crock pot. It will change your life, people. I promise you that. That's a good way for Thanksgiving. Nello, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Stuffing.
See, you are spoken like a true southeastern guy right now. I know you're from the west side, but that's exactly what a lot of my family would say. Mama would probably agree with that. Ken, shout out, rest in peace. That was his favorite as well. So stuffing, yeah. That's a good thing right there. I like the cut of your jib on that one. But as hungry as I may be, we are not here to talk about food. We are here to talk about a pay-per-view. An AEW pay-per-view. An AEW pay-per-view where a lot of stuff happened. Of course, I'm talking about Full Gear. So, this show had a lot going into it. And to be honest, I was really questioning, particularly the main event. I was questioning it, and we both talked about it a little bit before. But I just think that this show was built up in a way where, I really feel like this title reign, it's something we're going to have to get into in depth after the main event, I think, because I have a lot of feelings about this title reign in general. But overall, I have to say, in terms of emotional investment in my hype level, I will throw it to you in a second. But to me, I thought the Moxley stuff was fantastic. We talked about it in the Blood and Guts. I loved how they set everything up with Cool Kyle coming out of his shell and breaking things out. So I was really interested to see, would they have the guts to, to get, for Kyle to go over again? And the TNT title, I was happy as a match, but it's something we've seen so many times, I really didn't think this feud needed it. Although the stipulation was potentially interesting with Mark Briscoe turning heel, which I'm glad they didn't do, in all honesty. Everything else. And I like the tag title build too, with the Ricky Steamboat thing. But everything else, it just felt like a really flat show going in my opinion, from a booking build-up standpoint. I was excited for the show because the matches I knew would be great. Even something like Fletcher and Briscoe, I anticipated them being great. But from a build-up standpoint, I thought this was honestly one of their weaker shows in a while. What was your vibe going into the show?
Yeah, I mean, I missed the last AEW pay-per-view. I believe it was Wrestle Dream. So I've been off the wagon in terms of AEW stuff, so I was hoping for a show that would reel me back in as a viewer.
Yeah, it kind of tells you how this title reign has been handled that you would even feel that way, to be honest. And I feel bad in some ways, but I can't blame you at all. I mean, Wrestle Dream, it just it just wasn't grabbing people. I would say, like in general, like just in terms of the build up. I'm not hating on the show at all, but just in terms of the build up, I think they really struggled with this Joe thing. And I mean, you did get the visual of somebody almost getting drowned at the end of the show, and all of that. But like, I think as a build up, I think we've been in a really struggling position for AEW lately, and I don't know why exactly. Maybe they were just in a lull after all in and all out and all of that. But for whatever reason, I just wasn't feeling that hype about these last couple of shows. We weren't able to talk about Wrestle Dream, but I felt the same way heading into that as I did to this. Uh, but regardless, let's get into the show here. Try and be breezy a bit here, especially with these other matches. Did you watch any of the Tailgate Brawl, as these are now called, these pre-shows?
I did not. I was making my food for the show.
Even with your boy, Big Justice, Big Boom AJ on the show. You didn't have time for that.
No, not this time, sadly.
Yeah, I totally understand. So first and foremost, right away, we have to address something. I really didn't like that they redid, because I absolutely loved the first time they did the pre-show match spill into the pay-per-view, the fireworks shot after the match, the crowd goes crazy. I thought it was awesome. But now, the reason why that was so cool was because it's something that never happens, and it felt like a shoot, kind of. Like something went wrong, and things just got too out of control, too long, and they were really creative about it. To do it again, this to me is the kind of spot you do once a year, maybe once every 2 or 3 years, and probably less. Like, I really think this second time just felt like, oh, okay, this was what was supposed to happen now. Like, it didn't feel fresh or cool or like anything went out of control. So right away, I have to say I dislike the spill into the pay-per-view opening, which I loved before. I just don't think doing it back to back, it made it feel like setup kind of, and not in a good way.
I did like that it wasn't like it was a completely different execution, though, in the sense of last time it was a great match that was continuing, and this time it was because Okada wasn't going to come out on the pre-show. And I thought that was really funny, at least. That he waited until the main show to come out. So in that sense, I appreciated that they did something different and it wasn't just the same. So I appreciated that, but I do agree that, doing it back to back still isn't the best.
And I think just when you have the time left and you start this match with 5 minutes left or whatever, it's like, we know this match is, like, we know what's going on. Like, we know that this is going to bleed into the pay-per-view. I don't think anybody was like, because last time everyone was like, how are they going to do this match in 6 minutes or whatever? And they got around it with the cool opening. With this, it's like, oh, okay, this is just going to bleed into the pay-per-view again. But I do agree that was a really good opening deal. I think that this Okada Takeshita feud, I think they've done a good job of establishing Okada's character as a huge dick. I do appreciate that, and obviously in New Japan, he is going to be Tanahashi's retirement opponent. That was announced on a couple weeks ago. It's one of those things. I mean, there's a lot of rumors and speculations into why that happened, but regardless of the whys, he is the opponent. I think the problem is this match, and the thing at Wrestle Dream is their team, Okada and Takeshita, put on a huge banger, like one of the best matches of the show, if not the best. This match had the potential to be an incredible opener, but instead, it was all secondary to Okada and Takeshi's feud, and Mystico tried to ham it up and do this one-armed Superman gimmick type of deal. I don't think it was as great as it could have been on paper. I think it was an effective build-up match, but I wanted a show stealer, and I don't really think we got that out of this. What do you think, Canelo?
I thought it was a fine opener. It succeeded as a showcase for the CMLL guys and is moving forward the Okada and Takeshita narrative.
Yeah, so I did like the thing with Okada. I think the work they did with Okada and Takeshita was okay. I do think, and I agree, because I've seen some people say this, and I agree with it. It's not an original point, but it is something I thought myself. They went a little too strong, in my opinion. Like Okada basically beat the crap out of this guy, Takeshita, like, and Takeshita still like playing dumb to it all, kind of like the spot where he attacked him, and he was supposed to be like down, like not looking at him or whatever, but he's literally beating the piss out of this guy. It's like it makes him look kind of stupid as a babyface, which is not like that already is a no man's land babyface to be in. So I really would like to see Takeshita get a one-up on Okada soon. Like I know that's probably the plan for the tournament, as we're going to get into, but like they're pushing it a little far. Is all I'm saying. I hope Takeshita gets a one-up on Okada and looks a little smarter going forward at some point. Like, what did you think of all that? The Okada Takeshita dynamic.
I want it to move forward. It certainly seems like it's going to with the Continental Classic. But it feels like it's time, because now it's in that sort of holding pattern of we're just going to repeat the same sort of things now. We'll get to that point.
Yeah, it was far from an original angle, to say the least. So, they play a hype video for Darby Allin, and he's like, they show all the crazy stuff that's happened, the drowning, the fire, and all the rest. So, this burn victim is now back and to wrestle somebody that's not Jon Moxley, finally, from the Death Riders. And Pac, in the storyline, he's going on, he's like, this isn't going to be some hardcore stunt show. It's going to be man to man, the basis of all combat. No bullcrap, pretty much. So, they show Darby, he's like all wrapped up like a burn victim here. And, he's looking like Volgan in Metal Gear Solid 5 at the moment. I just beat Metal Gear Solid Delta. Hey, have you seen the lineup for the Game Awards this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, quick thoughts on that. Because my thoughts coming in were, Claire Obscure is probably going to get nominated for everything. And then it came out, and it was basically nominated for everything, and it's probably going to win a lot.
Yeah, I mean, all of my favorites, Kingdom Come 2, Death Stranding 2, Claire Obscure, were represented pretty strongly, so I was happy with it.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Time Stranger, the Digimon game, get a representation somewhere. And I also thought Yote got snubbed a little bit. I thought I was a little surprised. Like, this is kind of like last year, the Veil Guard didn't get anything. Which, I mean, I was fine with. Like, I didn't really deserve it. But this year with Yote, I really thought they were going to, like, put a spotlight on that. That was going to be a big contender against Claire Obscure. But they said no on that end. Outside of Erica getting a nomination for voice actor. But still, that is a whole other thing. So, Alan comes in, and he's, like, burned to a crisp. And then he walks out of stage and he's like, just normal. Like, I don't know what transformation he went into between the hospital and the stage. But he's back. They go in. They do some good mat wrestling early on here. They do a great spot where they sprawl, and Pac has to like he shows how desperate he is to get to the ropes. Um, so I really like this early opening where they showcase, and this is something I know, and you know, I think if you are a longtime fan, you know this. But if you're somebody who's been around the last year or two, like Darby is a fantastic wrestler, not just a stunt show guy. And we saw it in that Osprey match in last year's C2, where like this guy came from he was doing Jave stuff on the indies. They talked about his amateur wrestling background, and he showcased it a little bit here for the first time. And I love seeing that because it's just we've seen so much of the stunt show stuff lately that I was happy to get a little different take on this character, especially so early on the card. I mean, we can talk about that in a little bit too. The card usage wasn't that great overall, but so they have this like strong match pretty much. Pac is like he's transitioning into this power guy, like pretty much, which is kind of crazy considering all these years as the flyer guy. But he's ripping the tape off, rubbing him against the ropes, rubbing him against the mat, trying to go after the burns, quote unquote, things like that. He threw him outside, like with a super hard Irish whip, and Darby, of course, bumped like a madman for that. They did the spot where he did the baseball slide. Darby got him in the ring skirt, looking like he's Fit Finlay right now, beating the hell out of him. That was cool. Then Pac ended up locking in the brutalizer, and Darby escaped from that on the ropes. He looked for the Scorpion Deathlock, but then after the pure match that Pac called for, Wheeler Yuta comes in. Great heat from the crowd here. So he came out. Pac grabbed the baseball bat, bopped Darby to get the dirty win here. I kind of anticipated this could be the finish when they went so hard in the video of like, I want a clean match, fair rules, no weapons. I kind of figured that there was going to be some shenanigans at the end, and there was. I don't mind it though because he's a heel. Like, and they're doing a story with him and John Moxley. Like, for him to win and be ruthless and cheat and break his word and all that, it makes perfect sense for the character. Although I do think it took away from an otherwise very good match, but I would say just short of great. And honestly, the problem with this match more than anything is the show it took place on. I think if this main event in a Dynamite, it would have stood out a lot better. But when you're on a show with the gauntlet match, no holds barred, no DQ, cage, and like it just fell by the wayside by the end. But I thought it was quality wrestling from two very quality wrestlers. What would you say?
Yeah, quality match that was, sort of death ridered in the end, which is unfortunate. But you can rely on Darby to have these quality opening matches on the pay-per-views. I personally would have switched this with the John Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly match, just to kind of separate the no holds barred and the no DQ. I didn't think that you needed those back to back on the show. And I think that if you had Moxley losing first and then you had Pac win after, that would have been stronger for the narrative that they are trying to tell with the Death Riders currently.
Yeah, I think one of the hardcore matches should have been broken up. Like, it doesn't really matter to me to which one, but they shouldn't have put them back to back. And I think that ended up hurting the end of the show. Actually, like, I mean, we're going to talk to that because I think the show in general fizzled out after the hardcore matches ended, and I think giving them more room to breathe would have helped the end of the show and this match. I just think in general, though, putting all of these stiff matches, it's going to make a match like this not stand out by nature. It's got a 7.97 rating. The trios match had 6.78, which I think is about, those are pretty fair ratings, I would say. What would you give these two matches?
I would go like on the Okada match before this, and then the Pac Darby Allin.
Yeah.
I'd go like 3.5 on like for just in terms of both.
Yeah, I definitely thought this was the stronger of the two matches, the singles match,
Yeah,
but it did have the worst finish though. So like it makes sense. I'd probably go like 2.5 or 3 for the opener, and probably like 3.5, maybe 3 3/4 for this. But it just
yeah,
wasn't
same.
enough to it wasn't enough to stand out on this show. Long story short. Speaking of not standing out, so they play this hype video. I like quick thoughts on the tournament. You said you were missing stuff. You probably did. You see any of this tag title tournament, the women's tag team title deal, like the
Um,
setup for this?
I have not been watching like the weekly show. No.
This tournament sucks. Like I don't know what they've been doing, but I just love the fact that we debuted this tournament with the intention of having these women tag titles, and we haven't even finished the tournament, and then we're debuting another new title with the national title on the same show as the semifinals. What is the deal with this company and the belts, man? Like, why are we doing this? You didn't need to have. Nobody wanted this, and you don't have the teams for it. That's the only thing this tournament has proven. You do not have the depth of talent to do this kind of tournament with the women's division. You just don't. And it sucked. And you're seeing stuff like the Babes of Wrath put together, which is a fun team. Don't get me wrong. But it just, you have to throw everybody together. And it just, you could have had Stat and Willow be a team here, and that would have made sense, but she's too busy with the main title. So you're ending up in with replacements, injuries. Julia and Sky Blue, bless their hearts, like continue to be in these positions. I just don't know what to do with myself anymore, like with these women's tag belts. But I definitely foresee a future where ultimately these belts were basically made to put on Tony, to give Tony a belt. And as soon as they lose them, they're going to be like trios belt forgotten level. I feel like I would not have high hopes for the future of this belt. And I didn't have high hopes for this match because this is a stipulation nobody cared about in the first place. But they're doing like a preview tag where the winner gets to pick a stipulation for their match, which it just sucks. So you had the Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart and Sky Blue, took on Marina Shafir and Megan Bain, took on the Babes of Wrath, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, and the Timeless Love Bombs, Mina Shirakawa and Tony Storm. What did you think of their presentation? Of the dancing, they're combining Timeless Tony shtick with the dancing entrance of Mina Shirakawa.
I like it, man. You know I fuck with Tony Storm on a deep level. Also, Timeless Love Bombs is like the most 1980s AJW ass name, and I love it.
Yeah, kind of like the Jumping Bomb Angels, right?
Exactly.
I thought this was fun, actually. Like I still think this character is still like I don't know what to do with it a lot of times, but I think that in this situation, for a fun belt, like a belt that nobody really cares about, and she's like the only over person of everybody, it helps Mina. The dancing's fine. It was fun. And it was much more interesting than the match itself, which, like I said, it just felt like this crowd in general, by the way, I didn't think this was a great crowd at all. Like, not just this match, but especially by the end. I think there was plenty of times where I was expecting the crowd to give a little bit more. They reacted to Tony, but it was more like a meme type of reaction than a, hey, we're really invested in this type of reaction. They just wanted to see Tony. They had a basic match, and I thought they could have done a lot more considering the build-up in Blood and Guts I thought was phenomenal. We both loved that match. And I thought the finish was great, building up the two, the Marina Shavir team and the Love Bombs. I think it would have been better if you had done that match and then their tag match at the end of the day. Go right to that instead of this meaningless waste of time build-up match. I think it would have had much more of a pop to it if you had just had those two and do something where they demand because since you love hardcore matches so much, do some kind of hardcore stip to blow this off, and they are going to, but just away from the show. Either just get rid of this or do a bit meaningful match. I thought it was okay. The action was totally superfluous. It was like a 5 out of 10 to me. Like at the end, it was just a good excuse to have Tony get a win with the big package. Well, what did you think?
Yeah, this was like good for me. Like coming back in, I want to view the rest of this tournament. Good showcase. I think like they are really blessed with just a lot of strong personalities in this division. Like if you look at everyone in this match, they are all, pretty well-defined characters with really good personality. And yeah, no, this was good. I'd go like, 3.25.
Yeah, I'd go about 2.5, maybe 3 here. Like I said, it's got a 6.14 rating, so it seems like they're kind of on board with that. It was fine, but it just, especially again on this show with so many gimmicks, I think it was going to be hard to stand out. I do agree with you about the characters, though. That is the one positive thing about this. Like they've solidified all 4 of these teams and the 8 women in them as characters, which is good at the end of the day. I wish that they had just finished the tournament after the Blood and Guts. I think would have been better. But nevertheless, they're coming in. Tony gets to pick the stipulation going forward for the Love Bombs. So, good stuff there, I would say. So, then they recap all the good stuff. We saw Ricky the Dragon Steamboat again in the build-up for FTR and Brodito. And so Stokely comes in where he's like, they do this thing where he walks out and he's like studying tape of Brodito. Pretty good stuff there. They start with, at one point, Bandito dies on the Stokely on the outside after he dares to interrupt the Macarena, which is a good spot, pretty much. They tried to do this, like, Bandito power spot where he got both of them into either a flapjack or a spine buster on both guys, but it just kind of fell apart. So early on, they were kind of having a meme match, and I was kind of like, man, when is this match going to pick up? And then it picked up, and things got awesome. Pretty much. Like, they hit the power and glory going in there. Bandito hit his one-armed gorilla press on Cash, doing crazy stuff out there, 21 plex. They try a shatter machine, but then Brody comes in and wrecks house. Somebody knocks out Bandito with the title. I can't remember who it was, but he got bopped by the title. Kicked out of the shatter machine. They do the monkey flip into the 450. They try to do... then they counter. FTR gets him up for the Doomsday device. But then Bandito, looking like he's Jay Briscoe in Noah, rest in peace there against, American. He flips out of the Doomsday device into a power slam. Looks awesome there. They go in. They end up getting Bandito and hits the spike pile driver, kicks out of that. Bandito's like Superman here. He eats everything. But finally, one more shatter machine. And the last thing we see of Bandito to end his title reign is he has enough energy to flip them off. And he takes the 3 count, 1, 2, 3.
The classic spot.
Yeah, this was a banger. This was the part where the show started to get into another gear. No pun intended with the full gear.
Yeah, maybe my favorite match on the show, honestly.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument.
FTR, top tier tag team, Brodito, potential tag team of the year nominee. They had a hell of a run, and they really made the tag division exciting again in a way that it hadn't been for a while. It was cool having Hurt Syndicate as champions, but you can't name any matches that they really had for those titles that were memorable or, no teams really got over. So I'm happy and grateful for the run we got from Brodito. And I was honestly expecting both to show up in the Continental Classic after this. and neither did. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to them after this. And, I hope that they don't fizzle out. I hope that they remain a presence in the tag division.
This is one of the great like DIY pushes, and not like DIY the shitty tag team in WWE, but like this was supposed to be like nothing, pretty much. Like it was like a totally thrown together team, but because they're so awesome, they got over more than anybody would have expected as a team, and they're like to me one of the most. It's not just one time; they're constantly one of the most over acts on the roster every time they show up. Like that run in they did got a huge pop. Um, this whole title reign has been a huge success with the fans, and they need to stay together, in my opinion. Like I hope that they stay as a team. I totally agree with what you said. I don't want this team to fizzle out because they're just too damn great. And they fit together in a way you would never have expected on paper, but in the ring, they just have this chemistry that you can't replace. So I love them as a team. I was honestly sad to see them lose the titles, especially since, in my opinion,
I think they had a lot left in that run if they chose to do so.
Me too. And the thing that really irks me, and FTR is great as a team. They've gone through periods where I've really ran hot and cold on them as characters, but I think they've got a great thing going right now with Stokely. I think there's no doubt that feels like finally the right fit, because he's a guy, too, that they've given chance after chance to, and nothing's really panned out for him in AEW. But now, finally, these two acts together just work. I think the problem I have with this, though, I would have greatly preferred Brodito to retain, because I feel like this FTR win is ultimately only in service of getting Cope and Cage into the title scene. Like, that's coming. Like, they're going to return and challenge for these belts. And I don't care to see that. Like, I don't want to see these guys get belts. I want Brodito to get the belts. These are guys that the fans want to see and will put on banger matches. I don't need to see the nostalgia run or even the heel nostalgia run with Christian. I don't need it.
What if you get titles? You get FTR versus Cope and Christian, finish up that story. It's still a loose end story, stuff like that, right? Like we need the final chapter. Okay. You do a short Cope and Christian run nostalgia, and then they drop to Brodito and they get that rub from the last run of one of the all-time great tag teams. Brodito or another up-and-coming team, either or.
Yeah, it would be a little weird in that case because, Cope and Cage are going to be baby faces when they come back. Maybe if they do enough of a run to turn them again, because I do think you could easily turn them heel if they wanted. We know what Cage can do as a heel, and I think Cope is DOA as a babyface. So if they wanted to get a heel run out of him and then Brodito saves the belts, I could get behind that. In terms of up-and-coming teams, like, who is there even on the heel side or anything like that? Like, they have not nurtured this tag division well, I would say, over the past year or two.
GOA, baby. GOA.
Yeah, that's right. Your boys. Hey. They've done all right. I have to say, I'm kind of into GOA with Ricochet. I don't love them, but this act has worked. And to see them have, like, beef matches with Hurt Syndicate, I can live with that. I don't think I would put the belts on them, but I think they've done better than I expected. Honestly, like in this Hurt Business feud. I will give them that. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
I know you don't like them, but we've got stuff to talk about right now. Speaking of GOA and their group. Because we moved on to the first ever national title. Why? Why do we need this title? Casino Gauntlet match. I hear. Like, who is hyped for this? That's what I want to know. I want to know who is looking at this as like, finally, another title, just what AEW needed. I knew they were going to do it. And they finally got it. Like, who asked for this at the end of the day? So, anyway, they play a highly edited video where they skip over all the NWA stuff they talked about in the promo because they probably threatened a lawsuit over it. Tony Schiavone He messed up like Ivan Koloff's name too. It was all a mess. The introduction video for this. Although Tony on the press conference said that he talked with Billy Corgan, and it seems like they squashed whatever beef they had out, pretty much. He even said he didn't even know that they were even in a lawsuit over Shockwave. So he was just like, hey, I'll let him have the name. I didn't even know. Which I believe, by the way. I believe that he is not paying attention to NWA because that is a vast majority of America is in that position at the moment. So I do not blame him. But we go in with the inaugural title. They start off with Lashley's coming out and then Shelton's out, like, to start off. Like, they do some perfunctory wrestling, and this felt like a hype moment. Like, when they came in, they shook hands, and the fans were ready. Like, they were, say what you want. I personally blame the booking more than them for their tag reign. I know that's not a popular take, but I really think you had money in them as a Road Warriors-esque team, and they just never went with that. But then they did this opening segment, and we barely got anything until Ricochet came in at 3. And I was like, damn, you had a great moment with this that you could have built into a banger. Shelton had that amazing run in the CC last year. I thought he could have been a guy that you would have looked at. I would have loved to have seen get another shot at it this year. And Lashley just feels like he's so aimless at the moment. But they had this disappointing start, and I was so bummed out by that. That really dragged the whole match for me. But then we get to see a Goa come in. They all beat down MVP. They wreck shit on the Hurt Syndicate. Ricochet does like a funny dance. Claudio's then out at number 4. He tries to do a dive, but Claudio hits an uppercut right away. Into the giant swing. Danny Garcia's out next to help out his Death Rider's friend, Claudio. Another guy's completely aimless at the moment. Orange Cassidy comes into a big reaction. Does his traditional spots with Claudio. I think you've seen that a billion times. Yuta comes in next. And they try to do like a stare down between Orange Cassidy and Yuta. And I didn't think it really took that much. I think they were too busy hating on Yuta here. Just one of the most over heels on the roster. But Kevin Knight comes out next. Has a moment to start off.
Real quick.
Yeah.
If there was ever a WWE AEW Forbidden Door, I really think one of the biggest matches you could do would be Dirty Dom versus Wheeler Yuta.
I've always said that, man. Like, that's what I've always said. Yuta is their Dom. And that match would be so over if they did that. I wish that had happened. Like, if we fantasy booked a Forbidden Door show between the two companies, that's like 1,000,000% a match that I'm booking. Like, not even a doubt about it. So yeah, Yuta, great heat. I love him and doing great work as a heel here. Roddy Strong comes in and like he gets a really basic. These entrances, they never said how much time took place. It felt like they were all over the place. Like they were short when they needed and longer when they needed, but it didn't really matter. Mark Davis comes in, has these power spots. Who looks impressive. He's another guy I thought he might be in the spot of like a Brody last year. Like an unknown type of guy they give a shot to. Because he was doing some big spots here. Speedball came in. Did his spot. They had a little bit more time on this entrance, as I said. And right when Danny Garcia looks like he's about to win, suddenly Daddy Magic comes in. And that's a big spot between him and Garcia to pay off their feud of Garcia joining the Death Riders pretty much. Hurt Business comes back in. They wreck House. It looks awesome. Pretty much they killed the big guys, which I thought was great. Cassidy fires up with an orange punch. And like OC dodges a spear from Lashley. And that lets Yuta come in for a near fall on OC, which was great. Kevin Knight, he hits the big UFO splash, but then he pops up and Ricochet immediately hits him with the spirit gun for the win here. Um, I thought this was way better than the last one they did, which was focused on MJF at All In, and it was terrible. I think they were automatically going to have to win me over with this match because they were at a title I actively didn't want. It was like a negative step, in my opinion. But I think all things considered, this basically worked. I think that like it was a lot of fun. You had a lot of different guys coming in there. You told a bunch of stories. You had Hurt Syndicate kind of get robbed by Goa, continuing that feud, which doesn't need to continue with Ricochet and Goa, to be fair. You had the Daddy Magic and Danny Garcia stuff. You had OC and Yuta. The action was good, but I don't think it was needed, but it was good. What do you think of this match, and what would you give it? I give this like 3.5 stars, maybe. What did you think?
Probably go like 3. Like I wanted more from this. I thought that in terms of like star power, this one was probably like the least star power one. Like, I mean, I remember when the Casino Gauntlet had like Osprey and shit, right? And you're just like, dude, these are like, this is the craziest roster ever. And this just kind of felt like the mid card going for a mid card title.
Well, that was totally accurate. I also think one thing that I think would have made the match better on that front, there should have been a surprise return or a new guy or something like that, like a big hook for the match.
Wasn't there supposed to be a new signing or something, or did I totally make that up in my head?
I haven't heard anything about that, but maybe there was, and I just missed it. A lot of these things, and I think it would have been a good time to debut somebody. Like, if it was somebody coming in, or just somebody returning, this would have been a great spot to get the crowd, like, put it over the top. Because I do think that was the weakness of this match. It's like, this is the mid-card belt match, though. Like, that's all I expected it to be going in. So maybe my expectations were set for that. But I do wish they had, like, some kind of surprise entrant for this. What rating would you give the tag title match to? We didn't even get to that. It's got 8.74 on Cage Match.
Like 4.25, 4.5.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'd be too. Like, I'd give that 4.5. I thought it was a banger. So then, like, we get to after all of this. Ricochet's champion is good. The gimmick of this is that you can defend it in other companies. It does feel, because of his character, he's more like a gimmick champion. But I think it's fine just because the belt doesn't have that much prestige overall at the end of the day. So we get through that, and we play the hype video for Kyle O'Reilly and Jon Moxley. Like, he's had Mox's number. We see the cracks in the Death Riders. And this time, there's no holds barred. The problem with this build-up, though, I do have to say, right away, this is the most interesting story in the company, hands down, like, going into the show for me. But from a narrative perspective, they were like, this time it's, no holds barred. Very different than no DQ. Like, very different. My problem is, on the ladder of hardcore matches, I would say no holds barred is for sure lesser than Blood and Guts, which we just saw. So it's kind of like we're taking a step back in violence with this one singles match compared to the cage match. So that kind of defeats the purpose of this storyline, in my opinion. But nevertheless, they come in. They start off with grappling and all that. You see the stuff with the finger from O'Reilly, the joint manipulation going in there. And then suddenly Moxley's like, yeah, I like this jiu-jitsu stuff and all that, but here, let me take a fork to your face on there. So he hits him with the fork, and we get to the blood, we get to the biting. We see a big ankle lock spot, which ends up with him stabbing the fork through the nipple. And Tony's like on commentary, he's like, Excalibur, you call this because I don't want to call this on there. But sickening stuff there for sure. So Kyle throws him over the rope with like a dragon screw. Gets back to the ankle lock. Locks in the leg vine. And then Kyle stabs him with the fork to get the blood going one way or the other. And they're going with the suplex, but they lock onto it. They have this epic strike battle deal. I thought was great. And I love the spot where they set up the choke, where he was like getting kicked, and it looked like Kyle was about to chop down the tree. And then Mox just like, this was like a really well-timed no-sell, in my opinion, to go right into the Bulldog choke. I thought was really good. They go back and forth with some more grappling. Mox locks in an STF. And then Kyle stabs him in the hand. And that lets Mox do the curb stomp. And then suddenly we hear the fans. They do the whoa Seth Rollins bullshit song here on there. So they remember the Shield, clearly. He looks to break his arm. Hits the Death Rider. Locks in the Kimura. But then he gets tricked into the ankle lock. And then after all this blood, all the fork, all the rest, Mox taps again and again and again. And it ends the match. And then after the match, he looks like he's about to give respect. But then he drops him. Like, he gets his heat back with the beatdown afterwards. I actually thought that was kind of unnecessary. They've accomplished everything you've wanted with this feud, I would say. I think it was also smart to keep him out of the C2 and have Roddy in his place, because it shows that you want to protect him. You don't want this push to just fizzle out. Because I think that this has been one of Tony Khan's greatest achievements in booking. Like, no joke. This Kyle O'Reilly push. Because they took a guy who could have retired. Like, 1 month and a half ago, if he retired, nobody would have cared. Like, it wouldn't have mattered at all to the company. Like, he was going nowhere. Like, he was like the third ranked guy in his own faction. Which, by the way, epic call by me on Conglomeration being the best faction. But they took a guy who meant literally nothing and had done nothing for years. Like, was a totally meaningless member of the roster. And they've revived his career, and he's revived his career with this feud. I think that's awesome. I think the story has been great. And they finally showed balls in booking. Because so many times there have been half measures, 50-50 bookings. Like, AEW is like really bad with that, even worse than WWE, in my opinion, with the 50-50 booking. Finally, they said, nope. This time, they would not put Mox over Kyle in the first couple of matches. It led to a match that seemed like it meant something finally, instead of just a meaningless win. If Moxley had just won that first match, it wouldn't have mattered at all. But after they did the draws, they set up the big win, and Kyle got the huge upset. Then they gave him the win in the Blood and Guts. I thought this could be a chance for them to give Mox a little bit of a return. They said, no, Kyle is winning this too. And this is exactly how it should have been. I thought this was brilliant. I think you could make a case that this was the match of the night, to be honest. Like, I thought this was just as good as the match. I love this. I would say it was a step down from the two Blood and Guts matches, from the all-time great Dynamite they had. But I thought this was phenomenal. Great storytelling. The only thing I would knock against this match, and I think why I might take the tag over this, it did feel a little disconnected in that they were doing this MMA, like, shoot style stuff, but also bringing in a fork into it. You know, there's a little bit of a disconnect there, but I do think they made it work really well considering the character Mox is. And I think O'Reilly looks like $1 million here. Great match, I thought. Like, love this match. What did you think?
Yeah, I liked this one quite a bit. Again, I think that this would have been a really, really good opener. Like, get the crowd hyped with a Kyle win versus a Darby loss. right?
Yeah.
And no, I was just I Kyle feels like he's sort of back at that level he was in NXT towards the
Yeah.
end,
And that was a long
where he
time
was
ago.
facing Balor for the title and that kind of stuff, and it feels like they're really getting him back up to that level, so which is awesome to see.
I never would have predicted it. And honestly, he wouldn't have been my choice for this. I love the idea of taking a guy who is stuck in the mud and giving him a huge push out of nowhere. I think it's something that's not done nearly enough in wrestling. And he would not have been my pick. I would have picked Roddy over him, like straight up before this. The thing is, he's performed so good that it's like, oh, okay, like this worked. Like this totally worked. He stepped up to the plate. Again, I wasn't even that big of a fan of his going into this feud. Like I thought his peak had been a decade ago. Uh, to me, I think his peak was in Ring of Honor when he was ROH champion. He had the Kushida match in the Best of the Super Juniors. Uh, and NXT, he got there eventually in the spots you've mentioned. But I really felt like his peak had been years and years ago. But this worked. Like, this totally worked. One of the great revival pushes in wrestling history, I would say. What would you give this match?
Um, I'd go like 4, probably
It's
four and
got
a
an
quarter.
8.3, so they're kind of at 4.25. I would go 4.5 here. I love this match. Right up there for match of the night to me. Along with the next match, which was Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. The thing is, the reason why I like the first one better is literally because it came first. Pretty much. Because this was great, and I was hyped at the finish for this. Like, I've always said Briscoe is one of the most underpushed guys in any company, pretty much. And now they're finally giving him something here. Uh, I just wish that the two matches had been separated, and that's the only thing. Uh, so the stipulation was the TNT title, and if Briscoe loses, he has to join the Don Callis family. So that's a good stip. We've seen this match enough. Much like the last match, this is another problem. This show had so many rematches on it that I wasn't that hyped for any singular match going in outside of the tag match or the Kyle and John match, because I thought it was at least like they set things up for something interesting to happen. So they start off earlier on with a strike battle. Fletcher's going in doing some heel stuff. They throw some chairs in. Mark ends up hitting him in the back with a chair. They bring in like this short ladder where Briscoe does to do the run up flip. uh, but he goes out through it. Mark's bleeding all over the place. Uh, Fletcher throws him into the ladder and all that. Don Callis jumps off of the commentary desk, pretty much, to help Kyle up. They do some more chair stuff. Fletcher ends up throwing him off the top through a bunch of chairs. So big spot there. Kyle ends up hitting this running spinebuster move. That looks great through the table. I thought that was awesome. And Fletcher ends up bringing in the thumbtacks. They hit the power bomb, but then Briscoe counters that into a fisherman buster onto the tacks. They have the barbed wire table. They bring the ladder. They bring a table. All these weapons are going in there. It's the ultimate plunder match. Fletcher gets the screwdriver. They come in. He spikes the screwdriver into the turnbuckle. And they do a spot where the screwdriver stabbed in the turnbuckle, and he's about to hit the brain buster on the turnbuckle with the screwdriver. But they did counter that at the end. He looks for the mark out, the cutthroat driver. They end up hitting the brain buster. Fletcher does for more. Mark ends up sending Fletcher flying through the barbed wire table. Then the J Driller, new champion, Mark Briscoe gets the TNT belt. I think this match was great. Don't get me wrong. but they really threw everything in the kitchen sink here. And I think they felt like they needed it to justify this extra match in their rivalry because Kyle had been getting the edge overall. But I think if this had, again, this is another one. If this had been a Dynamite main event, I think it would be super memorable. You could have had confetti flying down, all of the conglomeration putting Mark on their shoulders, fireworks going off. You could have made an epic moment. But here, they basically just got away from it as fast as possible. And thankfully, we had an online follow-up where Orange Cassidy gave him his own belt, which had camouflage on the stripe. It looks amazing. I love the belt design. It's perfect. But we should have gotten this moment right away with an epic celebration. Instead, it just feels like, okay, another blood hardcore match of which we've seen numerous on the show, and we will see more to come. So it was still great. I would still give it 4 stars, but it wasn't as memorable as the other match because I think that this was more expected. Because I did not want to see Mark Briscoe try and turn heel. Like, who even wants that? And I didn't think they were going to do it, to be honest. But what did you think overall?
Yeah, I'd say like this is probably my other match of the night. Really solid stuff. They have had multiple, matches before. I think they said like this was the 5th one or something. And I still think that they pulled off perhaps their best match so far. Like the only other one I can really think of that would be close to this is probably their C2 match. But yeah, I think Mark's going to be a great TNT champion. I hope he does the open challenge. It's going to be really fun to see what he does.
Totally agree with that. And Kyle, he's losing up, like pretty much. Like he's one of the top threats to win the C2, in my opinion. Like outside of because we all think it'll come down to Okada and Takeshita, but they do have the idea of if they face in the semifinals, Fletcher would be the guy you would point at that could be the winner of the tournament. I think he's a strong player to be in the tournament. What would you give the match?
Go 4.25.
This is the highest rated match on Cage Match. It's 9.0 straight up. So this was the inmates' favorite. And it was like the most quote unquote sicko match on the show. It had the most weapons. I mean, they had everything in this match. Pretty much. So I'm not surprised by that really. But I just wish it had been on its own or away from the other match or just on Dynamite. We recap the Young Bucks being broke. This storyline does nothing for me. I'm sorry. Like this whole thing sucks, in my opinion, at this point. It was cute for like a week, and we're like 4 months on from it now. I hated all of this in terms of the build-up. We're finally getting in this $1 million match, which is stupid. We just had there was like a $200,000 match in the pre-show. I'm sick of these money matches. It's totally unrealistic, in my opinion. Like this works once, not over and over. They're just driving stuff in the ground, and it's really annoying. And I thought this is where the show fell off a cliff to me. I thought this was such a drastic downgrade from the last match with Fletcher and Briscoe. They started off sloppy with Jurassic Express because they suck like they always do. They're coming in with Alexander, another guy that's like, man, can you tell me one thing about Josh Alexander's character in AEW other than he's in the Don Callis family?
He really wants to face Kenny Omega.
Have they even given him a promo to state that on Dynamite? Like, I couldn't tell you anything about him. So they come in, they do some dive stuff here, like coming in with the Young Bucks trying to fire up the crowd a little bit. Omega, he does his "You Can't Escape," which Alexander escapes from. That was one of my favorite spots when he was in New Japan, because Ken whenever we watched that, he'd do that. Whenever they'd escape, without fail, Kid would yell out, "Well, he just did escape," whenever he said, "You can't escape," and it always popped me. He never liked Omega in New Japan, which I didn't either, to be fair. But we came around in AEW. I think he's a lot better fit. But nevertheless, they come in. He's not a better fit now because it feels like he's held together by bubblegum and duct tape watching him, and it's kind of bad. Like, watch the match not be as good as he used to be in terms of execution. But in the end, Josh ends up knocking down Matt Jackson with the miscommunication spot. Luchasaurus hits the countdown to extinction. That did look good, I do have to say. Coming in there, Josh ends up making the save. They hit a like doomsday device on both of the Bucks, but then they just no sell it and fire off super kicks. Coming in there, like they like had this huge rush, which I didn't love because I thought the doomsday device should have been more protected. And it hit a double, like Jungle Jack hit two on both of them, and they just fired up. Uh, Omega hits the one winged angel on the floor, and it looks like Jungle Jack's about to win, but they pull him up, hit the BTE trigger to get the win. So this kind of worked how I thought it would booking wise with the and I'll just go into the post match here. So post match, the Young Bucks get the money. They're rich again or whatever, I guess. And Don Callis is like, yes, we're all a family again. We're stronger than ever. Then everybody jumps Omega. And like Don Callis tries to like drag them away. Like, don't worry about it. Let's just get backstage. And the Young Bucks are like, no, we gotta save our friend. So they save. They bail out Jurassic Express and Omega. And they look to do a handshake. They handshake Jurassic Express. Then they look to Omega, and Omega slaps their hand away and is like, screw you. Like, you guys screwed me over. But it's all a swerve. He brings them in for a hug. And then Don Callis steals all their money and runs off with it. But they have their friend back. As we go back into elite melodrama. Something that is unheard of in AEW. I've never seen this before. The elite, they were enemies, but now they're friends. This is a totally unique storyline. I never dreamed they would do it, but here we are again with a guy who can barely move and two guys are in a DOA gimmick. I didn't like this match at all. Like I see that it's got a good rating on Cage Match. Of 7.16.
God damn.
Yeah,
the claws are out, full on hater mode. Let's go.
Yeah, 7.16. But this to me felt like a sad shell of what this was when they did the Golden Lovers versus Young Bucks 10 years ago or whatever. Like, this felt like it's so much tired. They've done this like 3 or 4 times already, like this exact same storyline. And I have no interest in any of this. Like any of the stuff they were doing before the match or after. It feels like Omega needs more time off, I would say. And I have no interest in any of the others. Like, I'm sorry. I thought this match, there was some good stuff at the end. I thought it picked up a little bit. But again, even then, we kind of got into like Young Bucks classic no selling. Like they flashed back to PWG for a second there. And I would give it another 2.5, maybe even 2 stars here. And the crowd wasn't that hyped for this as they had been in the past too, because they've seen this a million times with Omega and the Young Bucks. Who cares? Like, we've done this over and over and over. It's not going to be as good as the Game 7 with the Death Triangle they had. That was great. That was the peak of this group. They can bring on the Carry On Wayward Son. It's not going to hit the same, man. It's not. Did it for you? Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Am I a hater, like you said?
No, I mean, I think you're definitely justified. I also have seen like enough of these PWG 6-mans, which isn't to say I still don't appreciate them. I think there's still a lot of lovable elements, but I don't think that this needs to be on a pay-per-view per se. Like, this could have been the ending of a Dynamite.
It's another one. This is like the 3rd or 4th match on the show we've said that. Like, if this had main evented Dynamite, it would have been much more memorable. But with this one, I don't even think that, because I think the storyline is so flat. Like, what can they really do now? Like, that they have, like, what new ground can we cross with the Elite back together again?
I don't know. I mean, it's a safe place for Kenny to be for sure, and maybe that's just what he needs right now.
And to be fair, I will say this. It feels like this was set to be a Golden Lovers run, and then Ibushi had the terrible injury. and this feels like the secondary swerve deal that they to do. So they're trying to make lemonade out of lemons, but the problem is too. I think if the trios belts had been handled better, you could build to them going for the belts one more time, the ones that they made or whatever. And if this does lead to that, I'll be happy. But how many times have we said that about the trios belts and got burned? Like, do you have any faith they can re-establish the belts with this team? I don't know. And the other side of it, the Don Callis family stuff. This is like their fourth most important feud in the company, like in the faction. It's just, I don't know. I was so frustrated by this match. Overall, I didn't like it. But what score would you give it? Again, the inmates liked it. They gave it a 7.16, just above the original trios on the show. But what would you give it?
I like 3 stars.
Yeah, see, I mean that's fair. Like I'd be like 2.5, but that's fair, I would say. But anyway, it's just the storyline and the angle and the $1 million. This all didn't hit for me. I do have to say, at the end. But I suppose we'll see what happens with the Elite going forward and what kind of plan they have. So after that, they recap. By the way, are the Young Bucks, are they still like, they don't have any money because Callis stole the money at the end. So
yep.
we'll can we just get back to them being normal? We don't have to do the joke stuff anymore. Like, now that they're baby faces, I hope. Like, they can be broke if they want, but just let them be normal wrestlers. Like, it's fine. They do a recap video on Mercedes going after Statlander. Monet's got all her belts, but Stat has the one that means the most. So only Statlander's belt's on the line. You would have thought she should have gotten at least Monet to put up one of her belts. I would have loved that if she had put up like the most worthless title that she had, like some the Polish title or whatever bullshit that she had. Put that on the line for a company nobody's ever heard of against the world title. I think that would have been a funny stipulation. But nevertheless, so they come in. They do some really good work early on with some good like back and forth. By the way, they did this new entrance for Statlander, and I wanted to cry because this presentation sucks. Like, for one of my favorite wrestlers, and I think she's just gone through come on. Did you like this entrance? This crash alien?
No, it's just funny.
I love her.
Because when you said you're gonna cry, I was like, Dylan's gonna go one of 2 directions with this, and you went the funny one.
This was cinema. Like, I loved it. It brought me to tears. This goofy alien entrance. Mercedes' entrance was good. You had like the Chippendale dancers all holding her belts here, but nevertheless, again, I hate this presentation so much. Like, why did they go away from what they were before? I'll never understand it. Back to the alien stuff, and it hasn't worked. Like, let's just be honest. It's not just me, Nello. Listen to the crowd of this match. Like, this is a match when they had their match a year or two ago. The crowd was going insane backing Statlander, and they were loving it. Here, the only time they woke up was when they were chanting CEO, like just to do the chant. But still, though, they worked really hard here, I do have to say. I think these two have chemistry. I think Stat is still in-ring, arguably Mercedes' best opponent in terms of chemistry. I really love the dive going in that they did early on. They tried to tease the 450 right away, so I love the opening start here. Another problem I have with this, I do have to say, I think this was not the right time for this match. Because I think that after everything we've seen, to do this limb work match, that was not going to work for the fans. But for me, I still think the work was very good. And I think Statlander did a great job because, we have to say Mercedes, as great as she is in a lot of ways, I do think her striking game is kind of her weakness. So when she was attacking Stat's arm, I think it could have been bad, but I think Stat was such a pro that she made it work overall. Uh, so I love the selling. I think Statlander did an excellent job at the end of the day. Uh, and I think the crowd just was not into it. And I don't think this could match up to their earlier matches. Like, go back and watch their match last year. I think it blows away. Like, the two they had last year was really above this overall. But still, though, I think a lot of that is because the crowd got it wrong. Like, I wish that they had been able to elevate this match more. But they end up doing she looks for the frog splash. Stat counters that with the feet. Hits the spinning, perfect driver that she does. Going in there, hits a Blue Thunder bomb on the floor. Looks great. They do the Malenko style gut buster going in there from the top. So I thought that was really cool. They did some good back and forth with the package pile driver. They fight back and forth over a tombstone, but then Stat runs her into the corner, and then this was a beast move. I love the finish because she yanked her up, overpowered her, hit the Saturday Night Fever, and got the retain. I thought this was really, really good. But I just wish that the crowd had been given more. And to be fair, I don't think Mercedes fully. There is a bit of Mercedes where she's kind of the fans kind of want to cheer her too much, for her to really be an effective heel. And that would be okay. Whereas last year, I think the fans were more into Statlander as a babyface. This year, I just don't think it connected. But still, the work was still great. I would definitely go 4 stars, maybe even 4.25 for this. It got an 8.19 rating, so the fans online at least noticed, even though the fans in the building didn't. What did you think?
I really liked this. My third favorite match of the night. I thought the finishing sequence was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it ruled.
Very big fan. And yeah, like I said, I think this was the third best match of the night. I don't think it lived up to their original bouts, but I think that this was super important as the most meaningful win for Statlander because Statlander is the women's champion, but there's still a woman that she straight up could not beat before.
I just think they have to work on this presentation because I had watched them on Dynamite 2 and they had her on commentary and it really didn't work either. And she's a really quirky, charismatic personality. But for whatever reason, they kept, and this is another flaw they had. They did it with Joe and Hangman too, where they had Hangman on commentary and it's there's no juice to this. And I think they really need to go back to the drawing board on Stat as a babyface because I feel like she's lost something from where she was at a year ago, and they have to try and get it back somehow. And I just don't think it happened here. But the big win, you are correct. This is really the biggest win of her career, and it does feel like they're establishing her effectively. But she needs something to really sink her teeth into. I really hope they have a big angle planned for a new heel to challenge her. Maybe a Tekla, type of person. Do a big angle that puts a lot of sympathy on Statlander. And for the love of God, get rid of this theme song and entrance and all of this. Please bring back her old music. I'm begging you. But nevertheless, great match. Though we have to work on these two. Mercedes just continues her generational run. That is why she was number 1 on the PWI. And also number 1 on the Wrestle Update 250 as well, overall. So then we get to the final match of the show. First we have the Don Callis family backstage. And they're like, screw the Bucks, we've got money. So they've got it. They're going back and forth. Callis is bragging. And they set up all 3 men, Takeshita, Okada, and then Fletcher jumps in. They all 3 will be in the C2, which would get revealed after the show. But good stuff there. So we go to the main event. World title match. They set it up last week in the Blood and Guts. The cage is here. So then Paige comes in. I know you love... We talked about a bad entrance for Statlander. I know you love this entrance for Hangman. Am I right?
Yes, you are. I loved this. Red Dead Redemption 2,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
awesome.
Like right away, I thought of you, and I was like, "Ooh, this is great!" Like when he came out, I was like, "Yes," and I needed it. I think after the stat entrance, but I love this. Like great entrance, um, just great stuff there. So they go in early on. Paige, like early on, like takes his shoe off and starts beating the hell out of Joe with it, which was great. Joe slings him into the cage and rakes his face against the cage. He's busted open early on. They have a strike battle going in there. At one point, Paige tries to choke him out with a Kikita Clutch, but suddenly Shibata comes in for a distraction. Kingston runs in, and it's time for the circus. Now, pretty much. Like, Kingston comes in to cut everybody off. The referee's down, hits a dead eye. Hobbs comes in, breaks open the cage door. And like superhero like fashion here, looking like Kane. Paige fights back, hits a buckshot Larry to Joe, still nobody to count. Finally, Hook runs in, and in the most Russo booking way possible, Hook grabs the belt. He like turns to the camera and like gives a smirk, like he breaks the fourth wall here, and then turns to the Hangman, and instead of hitting Joe, hits Hangman with the belt and takes off his shirt to reveal the Ops shirt. He was with them all along, Danilo. Which is funny because he was like literally just with them like 2 months ago. So apparently it was this big. The commentators are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this. Who would have ever dreamed they would work together?" And it's like, dude, he was just in the faction like 2 months ago. So he's laughing his ass off at this. Joe picks up the Muscle Buster to win the belt in a shocking title change, in my opinion. I didn't see this coming at all.
Nope.
But I have a lot of problems with this. I have to say, like, it's not just one thing. I'm not second guessing this move, Nello. I'm first guessing it here. I feel like Kirk Herbstreit on NCAA football video game right now. Like, so right away, I didn't think the match was that good. First of all, it was a House of Torture like match at the end. It was to protect Hangman. I get why they did it. I get it. But for a main event, I think you could easily argue this was the worst match on the show. Like, to be honest. Except for me, because I hated the six-man tag so much. But, I mean, this was the second lowest rated match on Cage Match. It's 6.76 rating. And after we had so many gimmicks, so much godforsaken blood on the show, to do this kind of match, I just don't think hit. And on top of it, it was a boring challenger. And the funniest part of it is, I don't think the fans bought Joe winning until he actually won. So I think all of this was wrong. But my main problem is with the title reign. But first, I'll get to that. What did you think of this match and the decision for Joe to win the belt?
I was pretty disappointed that Joe won. But like, again, my whole thing is I give it 3 weeks. So let's see what happens in these next 3 weeks. You never know what's going on behind the scenes, but yeah, I just, I felt like Hangman had so much more. I felt like this could have been Hangman's Kobashi run.
And we all thought that. I think.
We haven't really gotten a great babyface world title run in like a very long time.
And the weird thing about it is, I think it's worse. Like, I agree with that, but it's worse because Hangman, he had his moment. Like, he had his Cody moment at All In, where he finished the story. And it was after a year of a completely shit title reign that nobody liked until the end. Like, pretty much until he got involved in the title reign, everyone thought it was an all-time bad reign. This was the moment to save the belt and the company. Your new babyface hero is now here to lead AEW into the stars and regain its former glory. The thing is, it's not just that it ended early, because to be fair, I don't think every reign has to be that long, but I think the story called for this one to go that long. You know, it was his Cody moment. But my bigger problem with it, even than that, because I've seen a lot of people say this, that he won the belt and nothing really changed. You know, from a business perspective, it's not like the ratings went way up. It's not like ticket sales got really any better with Hangman as champion. My problem with that is, and the failure, the abysmal and utter failure of this company right now in this title reign. And it's something I said, go back. Go back to this, Nello. I think you'll remember this, and I think the listeners will remember this. Go back to where things were. They never gave him the ball to, if you look at him as champion, like, yes, I get it. He was the champion, but I said it, go back to that damn Forbidden Door show where he was not the main event. The first pay-per-view after this epic win, he was not the main event of that show, and I said, this is a bad sign, people. Why is he not the main event? We built to this. Like, this is what this company was all about. And even in Wrestle Dream, he also wasn't the main event. So, he's not the main event on any of his shows. He's not the main event in terms of TV time. Jon Moxley, after that reign, okay, of Adam Page winning the title, Jon Moxley's title reign, he is still the main character of AEW after that. It was not Hangman. Mox was the one getting the TV time. Mox was the one that was getting the big storylines with Kyle and the conglomeration and even Danny Garcia before that at the end. What in the world are they doing? Like, how can you do this? How can you mess up this reign so much to where you built this reign for months and months and months? The fans chose Hangman. The story didn't call for Hangman. The story called for Darby. But the fans chose Hangman. Your most passionate fans. And you're telling me this man is not the main character on your show afterwards? You're telling me he can't main event pay-per-views afterwards? And after we saw the amazing masterpiece of booking that was O'Reilly and Mox, you're telling me that they cannot give this man a main event, a true top guy push. The ending of this reign should not have been, whoa, was this reign worse than his first one? Where CM Punk came in and messed it all up? Because that's the talking point after this reign. It's not, oh, this was an epic reign. Oh, yeah, it was short, but man, he put banger after banger on the table. That's not what happened. And on top of it, Joe as champion, and this is the thing where I'm going to give them a little bit of leeway. But the thing is, yes, we can give it 3 weeks, but 3 weeks is not going to make up. It's just like the Death Riders. Like, people praise that at the end. The Death Rider story still sucked. Like, make no mistake about it. It was bad for 10 out of 12 months or however long it was. You know, most of the time he's had the belt, or 8 out of 10 months or whatever. That reign sucked. The good ending does not change that fact. It just makes it more tolerable. Maybe they could turn this around because let's face it, at the end. Oh, by the way, I also didn't like the Swerve return because it's like they did this whole special effects show where the lights went out. Prince Nana came out and that was good, but I would have rather it been more natural because at the end of the day, why didn't Swerve help Hangman in the match? Where was he 5 minutes ago when he needed him most? So they do the lights out, the house is on fire, and then Swerve comes out. The ops bail, uh, and then he helps up, and Hangman and Swerve stand tall. So the one thing I will say in defense of this is that I don't think it's impossible that this Joe win is a reset because they fucked up the title reign so much to this point, and he hasn't been the main character, he hasn't been the main event. I could easily see this going into a triple threat match with Hangman getting the belt back in a month. Or even he just beats Joe straight up. And this was all just to reset this bad title reign they were having with him. And we can go back to the big Kobashi-esque run, even if it's not as big as it was. But he was already kind of floundering because of their booking choices as champion. So maybe they could do a reset. Now with Swerve back, and them as partners, like that's a new chapter in their story. And we know all the Hangman fans, like they love the Swerve and the Hangman story. So I think this can be good in the long term. The problem is it's inexcusable how we've gotten to this point. Like this should have never have been needed or necessary. And also, I don't think Joe was the right person for this either. I would have preferred Hobbs, honestly, or another young, new, fresh face. Joe is not what AEW needs as champion. I like him, and he's a fantastic promo, don't get me wrong. But he is not going to be able to deliver the kind of matches AEW should stand by, like, as the top star and what represents this company. So I would have preferred a younger guy to have a shock title win, roll the dice, and set things up. But I do think it's possible. Are you buying what I'm selling on the idea of Paige getting the title back in 3 weeks? And that's how they make up for this.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going with it. Joe feels like a transitional champion again.
Yeah.
A way to build
that's what I
baby
think.
faces. Maybe you get a Kyle O'Reilly title challenge out of this.
That would be good.
I'm a Hangman guy through and through. He's the heart and soul of this company, and it feels like they're only invested in that when he's in the chase.
And it shouldn't have been that way. It didn't have to be that way. Because, again, that's another point. Booking a babyface champion isn't the hardest thing ever. It's like people are like, oh, babyface champion, it's better for the chase always. Like, WWE's made a career out of that, pretty much. Like, an entire existence out of babyface champions. Like, it's not that crazy. But you have to actually have him main event shows. And like I said, it's the cracks were here, though, Nello. Like, I get it that, we all love Hangman, and I agree. But the cracks were already showing when he was not in the main event of that first show. And I think they just continued on. And on the show, he's never the main character on the show. It's always Mox. And that's bad pacing and bad storytelling. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It just is. But we'll see what happens. And I think that they're going to try and fix this. And this is kind of their way. Because I think they knew that they were messing up this title reign. Like, if he had retained the title, this would... Like, if Hangman had won, this is still a bad title reign going forward. And he's a really weak champion because of how they booked him. Like, it's just the fans' investment in him. It's not what they're doing. Like, that's made him as a champion. And now they're going to try and fix it, in my opinion. We'll see, though. I like the idea of O'Reilly getting a title shot, though. I think it's a logical story. But here's another problem. The title is now in the hands of a tyrannical champion leading a heel faction with a guy who betrayed his friends. We just saw this story. Like, this is the exact same shit of the Death Riders. It's the same thing. Like, why could we not just get away from this for a little while? What do you think of Swerve coming back and his future?
I mean, he's got to be the next champion, right? But then Ospreay's coming back too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, I feel like they would get it back to Hangman before Swerve. But, I mean, if he won, that just puts that Swerve Hangman thing in the whole weird view. Like, if that happens, at that point, the logical outcome is Hangman tries to turn heel again. And nobody wants that. Like, I feel like if Swerve wins the title, it's a mess. Like, it's a total mess. And it's a shame because this show had some great matches on there. And I think, unfortunately, I think this show totally fell apart the last 3 matches. Even though the women's match was a great wrestling match, the fans didn't buy into it. And the other 2, I just don't think delivered in any way. And I hope that they learned a lesson. And it's a talking point. We've been on these shows a long train, but now it's starting to actively negatively affect the shows. And I think now is the time they have to do something about it going forward. Like, you just don't need all of these matches. And in fact, a lot of them ended up kind of disqualifying the other matches. Like, if the TNT title, the no holds barred match were on 2 different shows, I think both look stronger as an outcome. If you have some of the normal matches away from all this blood stuff, they stand out more. This show was really good. Like, and I think if the show ended on the Briscoe title win, and it was a TV show, I would say it was one of the best Dynamites ever. Just like I said about the Blood and Guts. But I think with the final 3 matches and the confusing title switch, I left with a kind of a sour taste in my mouth. Like, damn, I invested all of my time in this Hangman run, and this is how it ends, type of deal. I don't know. It's got an 8.40 rating as a show. Out of 10, what would you give the show? I'll say 7. Like, I can't deny the earlier matches, but I think the last 3 matches really took things down. And by the way, I think everyone's like the overall thought outside of the inmates, what I saw was negative because of we all want to see Hangman thrive, and it just didn't work. But what would you give the show out of 10?
I'd go like probably a 6.
Even lower than me.
I want to be hard on AEW, man, because they're, I think, the best professional wrestling company. In terms of like, are there Japanese companies that maybe I like watching more sometimes? Sure, but in terms of the overall packaging, presentation, everything they do from top to bottom in terms of, actual promos, segments, blah blah blah, like, this is the best pro wrestling company in the world to me. And I thought that this felt like a B show with a couple big moments on it. It moved a lot forward, and there were some great matches. Like I said, I think the Mercedes, Stat, Fletcher, Briscoe, and FTR Bodito matches were all really great, and I think that those were all pay-per-view caliber matches. Everything else, minus the world title match, simply because it's a world title match, all felt like Dynamite level things. And, sometimes it's going to be like that when you're doing a pay-per-view essentially every month. And I think that they've had better builds. They've really reeled me back in with the C2. So this is my favorite AEW season. So regardless of how the show, or regardless of what the show's outcome was going to be, they had me still. They had me hook, line, and sinker, sadly.
That's true. We got about 20 minutes left. You want to go through this CC lineup before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I think we got enough time. So let's talk about the Continental Classic here. So here's a problem right away. For me and you, we love the CC. Like, we love the C2. We always praise it. We always love it. And we're going to do some great coverage this year, too, to all the listeners out there of it. Like, we are fully locked in for the C2 here. But my big issue is I really don't like how they announce the participants, where it's just like, hey, 2 days before it starts, we're going to announce everything. Like, you know what I would do? And here's an idea. Tony Khan, if you're listening, check this out. I have 2 ideas, actually, like 2 separate ones. The first would be a direct ripoff of the G1, pretty much, and major Japanese tournaments, where you do a press conference where everybody's in suits. They announce the participants, and they do this big hype for it. You announce the participants, then do a press conference. Everyone gets to cut a promo on their intentions, why they're in the tournament, and their hopes to win the tournament. Or What I would do to make it a little bit different, I would do a ceremony in the ring with the trophy and a huge ass check, which they do not give away in Japanese wrestling anymore, but I always loved. Put that in the ring and immediately call out every single participant, and with the same idea. Everyone comes out, gets a chance to cut a promo live in the ring. This is like a half hour, maybe 45-minute segment. And you can end it with a brawl. You can end it with two guys staring down. You can end it with anything you want. But hype this motherfucker up. Like, this is your C2. This is your headline tournament. Make it feel like a big deal. Don't just throw names out there 2 days before it starts. That's just something that rubbed me the wrong way. Are you with me on that?
Say that one more time.
I just feel like this is their big tournament, and they don't make it feel like a big enough deal. They just announce guys 2 days before it starts. I think they could really hype it up a lot more. Are you with me on that?
So I do get it in terms of what I heard Tony say was that he wanted to wait until after the pay-per-view because he didn't know who would be available still. There was a lot of guys on this show that are now, if not all of the guys for the most part. So
Yes,
I think that he saved himself he's basically saved himself the trouble of, even if one guy is injured, it's still deflating, and then someone comes in not as a first place competitor, but as a replacement, right? And that's not terrible, but it's like, you don't want to, I think, cast someone, who was it that got injured last year?
Oh, last year. Yeah.
It was Juice Robinson.
Yeah,
Juice. And then Commander replaced him, right? So
and
again,
awesome,
if Juice if Juice got injured though, and then I think he got injured in the tournament though, but like again, I totally understand it from the thing of you want to make sure that the people you announce are available. But I do think that there just wasn't any space between Full Gear and when they're starting the CC. I did enjoy the special. Like, I've watched it the past 3 years now, I think, that they've been doing it. And, it's a fun little thing. And I watched it in Wrestle Club and we all had fun.
Shout out Wrestle Club.
Shout out Wrestle Club. So yeah.
Yeah, man, that would have been perfect. Like, one of these days, I'm getting into Wrestle Club. I'm breaking in. Nello on that one. I got to join. It's been too long, brother. At the end of the day. But the thing is, you described it perfectly. That was good. It was a nice little thing. But this tournament should be a G1 level tournament, in my opinion. And it just doesn't have the flair to it. And I actually, I think an injury replacement is an automatic great story. It sucks that somebody got hurt for it, but to me, Commander got so much more out of that run than Juice would have gotten. And also, we just saw it in the G1 this year where Tai Chi came in as an injury replacement and had a huge run out of it. That's a tried and true deal. I don't think that's a good excuse. They should have announced it a week or two ago and then did a special. Maybe you could save the special until after Full Gear. Or just book it in a way where you just have an extra week at the back end. Have it go in another way. Like, they could have done it so many ways. But that's my only problem because I love this group that they've come together. This might be their best one yet, actually, in my opinion. So let's get into it. In the Blue League, you've got Orange Cassidy, Claudio Castagnoli, John Moxley, Roderick Strong, Konosuke Takeshita, and from CMLL, Mascara Dorada. This is another thing, by the way, I would try to do more of. I would specifically have outsider talent in. And they did it this year with Dorada. In future years, I would have somebody from New Japan be in it. I would have somebody from CMLL be in it. I'd even have somebody from Ring of Honor in it, even if it says a Lost Post. I want to make this feel as international and global and as huge as possible. So I love Dorada's inclusion. I mean, he just had a horrible match with Okada on Collision last week. So he's not really coming in at his strongest. But I think if you're like me, it's very easy to blame Okada for everything, even though it was actually really more him. As much as I'm an Okada hater sometimes, uh, he is now has a chance though to be this year's guy that rises up from nowhere. He's probably not going to get a lot of wins, but when he does get a big one, it's going to be spectacular. I love this block. My only issue is I really wish they had separated the Death Riders and Conglomeration because you've got basically most of this block is those two feuds. So I would have swapped one of the Conglomeration and one of the Death Riders with one of Jet Speed and somebody else in Gold Stars or Gold League, in my opinion. But still, though, the matches are going to be great. I think this is a fantastic block. And you get your main character of your company, John Moxley, in here, which we haven't had in the last couple of years, where the top guy has not been in the tournament until now. What do you think of Blue League?
Hyped, 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 hyped. Which okay, this is the league that I am more excited for.
Yeah, me too. I totally agree.
It's like this is so stacked this year. And I appreciate that so much because too often, this is more so in American wrestling companies, we get awesome tournaments with the most filler people whatsoever.
And I think Gold does have that a little bit, but even the lower tier guys are guys with breakout potential, like too. So, like with Beast Mortos and Commander, there's only so, and even Shelton, we know that there's only so far they're going to go with those type of players. Here, if somebody breaks through, they could be on their way up. Even Jet Speed, like if they are able to do it, and in Blue Stars, it's like all hits, like all of these guys. Outside of Dorada, he's kind of like the fish out of water here. But if he could do good in the tournament, like that could jettison his career and he could become a regular. That could lead to him getting a contract or something like that. But yeah, in this tournament though, I think in Blue League, this is the better block for sure. Like I said, all of these guys are awesome, and also I think Cassidy coming in, this feels like a really big shot for him. Like, because he's a little older, like he's a veteran, and he's gone through the ringer of this company, and this feels like his chance to get back to where he was, where he hasn't been. Again, I always point back to that match with him and Moxley, where Moxley won at All Out. Like that was their chance to make OC a main eventer, and once they didn't do it, it felt like he kind of slipped down the card when he lost the belt and all of that. Now he has a chance here. If he comes in and puts in an MVP level performance, he could be right back as a top babyface again in his group. And then, man, that conglomeration looks so strong. O'Reilly, mega push. Mark Briscoe just won the belt. Fan favorite. OC, this is his chance to come up. So I think it's great for him. Moxley, you get the follow up to the storyline of the Death Riders. It's great. And Takeshita is obviously one of the favorites. Yeah.
Something else that I really love. No other champions in the tournament.
That should be yeah.
I think in both of the past years we've had champions who have belts. I don't count Takeshita because he's the world champion of New Japan. Like, I'm talking about people who are the TNT champion who are like, oh, well, I'm going to go in this. And I feel like that cheapens the belt that they have because they're not investing their energy into defending their title. They're investing their energy in going for another title. So that tells me their title isn't important. Yeah, so I was really happy that they kept out Briscoe. I think it's smart to keep out Kyle just because, this is I think of Kyle in the same way that they had Swerve in the first C2, right? Like, you've just built him up and he is so on fire. And if he's not going to win, don't book yourself into the corner of having to find some way out like a Jay White triple threat for your block final, right?
Oh, well, 1,000,000% agreed. I thought it was a genius move, like to claim that injury to keep him out. Because immediately people are like, why isn't O'Reilly in this? And to me, it was like obvious right away. It's like, oh, they're protecting him. Like, to me, it's a blessing, not a curse that he's not in. I totally agree with what you said. So who do you think the two are coming out of Blue League? I think Takeshita's a lock, barring an injury. And the second spot is, I would say Moxley. But
I'm going to go. Oh, man. It's really hard. It's really hard because I feel like it's going to be Moxley or Claudio.
Claudio would be a good story, too.
Because, Takeshita for sure. Like, here's the thing. I think that this could go one of two ways. And I think that both are very compelling, but it feels like this entire tournament has been set up for a very obvious outcome, which is for the Okada Takeshita finals at World's End. But also, like, you're completely set up for a Moxley versus Pac finals as well.
That would totally work overall. So yeah, I'm
so like for World's End, for your main event, you could go Okada Takeshita and get that prestige match, right? Or you can hold that off even longer, have them maybe fuck each other out of the tournament or something, or I don't know. And then what was I gonna say? And then yeah, you have the Death Riders, your biggest faction still. You're basically main event group. You have Moxley pass the torch to Pac.
I think it's a great idea.
And again, like you can do both of those things without the tournament too. So, and that's looking at it through a very binary lens. Like I feel like it's going to be one or the other. I think that Moxley and Pac is definitely the dark horse. Like if I had to say, I have 95% belief in a Takeshita Okada finals and 5% belief in a Pac Moxley finals, and that's still I would say my close second. But yeah, no, I'm just hyped to see what happens. I feel like Roddy could get a Mark Briscoe sort of push coming out of this.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I think it would be a great thing. I think Claudio's has a spotlight on him. I love the idea of him making the finals and screwing over Moxley in some way. I think it's a great idea. So love the block, love the talents, and look forward to what they do with it. But I'm going with Takeshita and Moxley. Hopefully Roderick can get something good out of this too, because I think he's an underrated talent. Gold League, we got Okada, Darby, Speedball, Fletcher, Kevin Knight, and Pac. What do you think of the league? Who were the two coming out?
Pac and Okada. I think that they're setting up Pac for a very, very big push. I think that this block is really going to be defined by Darby's matches pretty much because I think he has first-time matchups with pretty much every single person in the block, if not all of them. There's a lot of highlight things coming out of this in terms of sort of interfactional warfare. Fletcher and Speedball, I think, will be a highlight. Fletcher and Okada. So I'm really excited for those matches.
It feels like they're going to really try to redo Okada's relationship with Ospreay with Fletcher here. And I think that they're going to do a similar vibe there, where it is. For me, I think Okada's a lock, and I think Fletcher will be the other member on there. But I like the idea of Pac being involved too. But I think Fletcher's on the uprise too much. I think the storyline of Takeshita and Okada is too strong, and Fletcher adds too much to it in terms of their push to it more than anything. So I'll go with Fletcher and Okada. Who you got?
I'll go Pac and Okada.
Cool. It's good to be different. So who do you think's winning the tournament?
Ooh, Takeshita.
That's my pick as well. I think Takeshita with the IWGP belt will be standing tall with the Continental Classic belt, especially considering he's probably about to lose the IWGP belt on January 4th. So I think it makes perfect sense for him to win, finally get the edge over Okada, and turn babyface fully for the first time in a while in AEW. And I also think that we will see movement with Moxley as well. Either he loses and that's the impetus for the turn, or Claudio just takes him out, or Pac takes him out, perhaps, if your scenario plays out too. So I think you've got some great things going forward. One more question before we get out of here. Never mind who wins. Never mind the wins and losses. just as a fan, somebody analyzing, somebody watching, who is your pick for MVP of the tournament? Who do you have circled as, I think he is going to be the best, most valuable player of the tournament?
Darby.
That was my pick too. Yeah, I want us to be different, but I think he delivers so big in these C2s that I just cannot bet against him. Last year was an incredible run, and I just think he is just going to kill it. Love the tournament, love the lineup. I think it's the best one they've ever had at the end of the day. So I'm super hyped for the tournament. My hype level is 10 out of 10 for this. So, with that said, love doing the show. I know you got to get out of here. Say something to the fans before we end it up.
Check out my mixtapes.
Where can they find those?
I'll send you the link.
Send me the link. I'll put it on there. Click on it. We're on YouTube, Cage Match, Spotify, all that. Click the link. Check out the mixtapes. It's a bona fide hoot of a time. And you know I wouldn't lie to you because you know I love you. And until next time, this has been your Wrestle Update.